I will start the January 12th, 2021 meeting of the Douglas County Planning Commission. I'll call the meeting order, and I first like to welcome Nick Mayer as our newest member of the Planning Committee. So when I call the roll, if each of you would affirm your presence, and then we'll move forward with the agenda. So calling the roll, answer your name as present. Nick?
Present.
Christy?
Present.
Bryce?
Present.
Mark?
Present.
Brian?
Present.
Maureen?
Here.
Okay, we have all 7 members of the Planning Commission, so we have a quorum. And I would ask Brian if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Brian. At this time, we'll move to public comment. Public comment will be taken on those items that are within the jurisdiction and control of the Planning Commission. Public comment cards and comments left on the county's website prior to the meeting have been compiled and made a part of the supporting materials that have been provided to the Planning Commission in public for review. Only 2 periods of public comment will be taken during this meeting, once at the beginning of the meeting and again at the end of the meeting. Public comment will not be taken on each agenda item. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person who has left a voice message on Douglas County's public comment phone line, 775-783-6088, once a public comment period has been opened. Once public comment closes, the voice messages will be played to the public and Planning Commission in the order they were recorded. No more than 1 voice message public comment per person will be played during each public comment period. Douglas County's public comment phone line became available to take public comment at 12 noon. Public comment will remain open for at least 5 minutes to allow members of the public to call or until the last caller has finished leaving a voice message on the county's public comment phone line. The Planning Commission wants to encourage respectful consideration of all views by members of the public. If the content of any voicemail is willfully disruptive of the meeting by being irrelevant, repetitious, slanderous, offensive, inflammatory, irrational, or amounts to a personal attack, or in interfering with the rights of others, the voice message will be skipped to the next public comment. I would note the time is now 1:03, and Nick, as our newest member of the Planning Commission, I would like to offer you the opportunity for any opening comments you'd like to make at this point.
Well, I'm delighted to be able to serve on the Planning Commission. I moved to Gardnerville in 2013. Previously, I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for 20 years. Very active in Silicon Valley, in semiconductor equipment manufacturing companies and telecommunications companies in the Valley. And since 2000, I have owned and run a enterprise software company with my brother in Chicago. We have some of the largest Fortune 500 companies as customers, as well as many defense agencies. So I'm delighted to join and use my expertise to help serve the community.
Great. Thank you very much, Nick. Welcome. And we appreciate your participation. Colleen, we'll now turn it to you. Do we have public comment at this point?
Colleen Zepeda for the record. Yes, we have 2 so far. It's 1:04.
Okay, you can go ahead and start with the 2 that we have.
Ellie Waller, W-A-L-L-E-R. Happy New Year to the Planning Commissioners. Summary of the staff report states that the Planning Commission approved approximately 3,000 units in 2020. Of note is the 2,218 proposed Park Agri-Hood project that still requires many meetings to assure the public and all the commissioners are fully informed about how the Agri-Hood concept will unfold as it is not codified. The report also shows results of the administrative panel hearings, which I'm not quite up to speed on yet. I'd like staff to provide a future presentation at an upcoming Board of County Commissioners meeting on what triggers a planning commission hearing versus an administrative panel hearing so the public and new commissioners are fully informed. As we begin 2021, Virginia Ranch project was recently purchased, so right out of the gate, we expect to see a proposal of up to 1,000 units in several phases, I suppose, before the commissioners. I am requesting staff provide a detailed status of all the units on the books yet to be built but approved or vested that include by the project the number of units. Last time the project was reviewed and presented to the public through a planning commission hearing or a Board of County Commissioners approval hearing to allow us all to assess our future growth issues of traffic, water, etc. Item number 3 on the agenda, I don't know that I oppose. It is for discussion only. Discussion on possible modifications to the bylaws by the Planning Commission, Kurt Wilder, Chairman. It would have been nice to have the possible suggested modifications being proposed available for the public to review. Please refresh us on the June 9, 2020 resolution of amendments of those bylaws. Thank you.
Okay, comment number 2.
Jim Slade. On December 8, 2020, the Planning Commission voted to approve the Buckeye Farm specific plan. Several members of the public made compelling arguments as to why the proposal did not meet any of the required findings for a specific plan, but the Planning Commission approved it regardless by a 4-2 vote. The first required plan finding was that it meet the goals and policies of the then existing master plan, the 2011 update. While the plan met some of those goals and policies, there were at least an equal number that it failed to meet. Nonetheless, the Planning Commission voted for approval. Buckeye Farm then went to the Planning County Commissioners on December 17. In the meantime, however, the board had approved the 2020 master plan on December 9th, making it the existing master plan. The board, of course, is the final decision maker on Buckeye Farm. The request had to be consistent with the goals and policies of the 2020 master plan in force when the Board of County Commissioners made its decision, which are significantly different from those of the 2011 update. Staff, however, in the board packet on December 17th only provided goals and policies from the 2011 master plan update, which by then were irrelevant. The packet did not address consistency with a specific plan with the current 2020 master plan. That day in public comment, I pointed this out to staff and reminded them that, in addition, the Planning Commission had only addressed consistency with the 2011 update. Mr. Booth, the planning manager, stated he agreed with my comments, quickly adding a new page to his PowerPoint presentation on this item to address his glaring oversight of the 2020 master plan. Mr. Booth, however, ignored the part of my comments that said any action on that item would be a violation of the open meeting law, since not only had the public not seen the relevant required findings before they made their public comments, but also this info was sprung on the county commissioners without giving them adequate time for thoughtful review. And of course, the board was considering required findings different from those considered by the Planning Commission. The board, by a 3-2 vote, chose to ignore that advice and voted for approval anyway. That item should have been denied, and the approval process begun again to determine consistency with the 2020 master plan. By doing otherwise, the board has invited a legal challenge and acted in a way not in the interest of the county as a whole. We'll see what the Attorney General has to say. The board and the Planning Commission rushed this item through, choosing expediency over thoughtful, timely, reasoned, and transparent process, which would have been in the public interest and in keeping with the letter and intent of the master plan. By hurriedly trying to ram the new master plan and Buckeye through last month, the county has violated the public trust as well as the open meeting law.
Okay, that's the last one, and it's 109.
Okay, thank you very much, Colleen. We started at 102, so if there's no other public comments that have come in, I will close public comment. As of 109, opening public comment is closed. The county's public comment phone line will remain open to allow for closing public comment to be recorded as the meeting progresses. We'll now move on to election of chair and vice chair. And this is for possible action, discussion on the election of the chair and vice chair in compliance with Chapter 2.06 of the Douglas County Code and Section 2.1 of the Planning Commission bylaws. And I will open it to any member who would like to make a motion for election of chair and or vice chair. Bryce?
Mr. Chairman, I move to elect Kirk Walder, Chair of the Planning Commission for the year 2021.
Thank you. Bryce has made the motion to elect me as chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Brian Olin.
Brian, I saw your hand up for a second. So the motion has been made that Kirk Walder be elected chair, and it's been seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, then I'll call the roll. Bryce, did you have a comment?
I do. I just wanted to elaborate on my motion. I just want to thank you for your service in 2020. That was a very difficult year, to say the least, trying to navigate Zoom and the master plan and all of the different issues that came before this commission. I thought you carried yourself with a great level of professionalism. I thought you led the commission well, and I look forward to working with you again in 2021, hopefully under much less difficult circumstances, but whatever they are, we'll deal with them. So I just wanted to say thank you and thought you did a great job, and I'm looking forward to another year serving under and with you.
Thank you, Bryce. Any additional comments before I call the roll? Seeing none, I will start with Nick. Nick?
I'm going to abstain because I don't really have history with members on the board.
Nick abstains. Christy?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Maureen? Maureen, I think you might be muted.
Sorry. Aye.
Thank you, Maureen. And the chair votes aye. So on this, there'd be 6 votes aye, no votes nay, and 1 abstention. So I appreciate your comments, Bryce. I appreciate the support of the members of the Planning Commission. And I, too, look forward to working with everybody, hopefully under a less difficult year than last year. Thank you very much. I'll now open the floor for election of a vice chair. Mark?
Yes, since Kurt's going to be our chair for another year, I'd like to nominate Maureen to be our vice chair for another year.
Thank you, Mark. Has nominated Maureen for vice chair. Is there a second to the nomination? Brian?
Brian Olin will second.
Thank you very much, Brian. Mark has moved for Maureen to be a vice chair, and Brian is second. Is there discussion?
Yeah, guys, thanks for not doing what you did last year to me.
Thank you very much, Brian. We appreciate your good service in whatever capacity we have you. Bryce?
Mr. Chairman, much like your service in 2020, I also want to thank Maureen. I thought she did an incredible job. I don't think there's 2 better people to be chair and vice chair of this commission at this time. And I thank Mark for nominating her. I think in the event of your absence, I think she will also lead this commission well, and I look forward to working with her too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bryce. I agree with you 100%. We all have good confidence in Maureen, and she's exhibited her great skills over the past year. So we appreciate her good service. Other comments or discussion on the motion to have Maureen be vice chair? Seeing no other discussion, then I'll call the roll. Nick?
Again, I'm going to abstain.
Thank you. Christy?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So on this vote, there are 6 votes aye, no votes nay, and 1 abstention. So Maureen, you are duly elected vice chair. Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Okay, we will now move to approval of the agenda. This is for possible action, approval of the proposed agenda. The Planning Commission reserves the right to take items in a different order, to combine 2 or more agenda items for consideration, and to remove items from the agenda or delay discussion relating to an item on the agenda at any time.
So moved.
Maureen moves approval of the agenda. Is there a second? Mark?
I'll second it.
Mark seconds the approval of the agenda. Is there discussion on approval of the agenda? Seeing no discussion, I'll call the roll. Nick?
Aye.
Christie?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so there's 7 votes aye and no votes nay for approval of the agenda. We'll now move on to approval of the minutes. This is a possible action. Approval of the draft minutes of the Planning Commission on December 8th, 2020, 1 p.m. meeting. I'll entertain a motion on approval of the minutes.
I'll move adoption of the minutes, and if the other planning commissioners have comments, I'll welcome those. Otherwise, what I noticed is we got these minutes last month, so everyone should have put their corrections in by now.
Thank you, Maureen. Is there a second to Maureen's motion to approve the minutes?
I'll second the motion.
Brian seconds the motion to approve the minutes. Is there discussion?
This is Nick Meyer. I have one question on the minutes. Mr. Niedenrep stated in the minutes on packet page 15 that he disclosed a conflict of interest regarding Mr. Park. I'd like to ask Mr. Niedenrep to, in the spirit of transparency, to explain what his business relationships or personal relationships are with Mr. Park.
Certainly, Nick. I have known David Park for, I don't know, probably a couple of decades. I went to school at Douglas High. He was several years behind me, but I did know him soon thereafter. I've known his grandfather, his father, and Mr. Park also happens to be one of my investment clients.
Thank you, Mark. Nick, did you have further questions or issues that you wanted to discuss with the Planning Commission or Council?
Mr. Niedenrep, is your business to be a professional investor or an accredited investor or an investment professional?
Yes, I'm a wealth manager.
I'm satisfied.
Thank you, Nick. Other questions or comments on the minutes of the December 8th meeting? Seeing none, then I'll call a roll for approval of the minutes. Nick, you were not at the meeting, and Sam Taylor, did you want to interject there?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Sam Taylor on behalf of Douglas County DA's office. Did you get a second on the motion, Maureen? I think moved, but
Yes, Brian.
I think Brian seconded.
okay. Sorry, I missed that. That's my fault. Sorry.
Okay. Did you want to make any comments? I know it's been the policy of past planning commissions and other boards that if a member was not at the meeting, they should abstain from approval of the minutes. Did you want to add anything to that, Sam? I note that Bryce was also not at that meeting.
Yes, Sam Taylor again, Douglas County DA's. I concur with your, sort of findings there. Essentially, under the bylaws, if you have knowledge about a subject or you were present at the meeting, then you can vote on a matter. If you don't have knowledge about a subject, then you're precluded from doing so. Or you're not present at the meeting, of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Okay. Unless there's further discussion, I'll call the roll on approval of the minutes. Nick?
Abstain?
Christie?
Aye.
Bryce?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to abstain as I was not present at that meeting.
Thank you, Bryce. Mark?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So on this vote, there was 5 votes aye, no votes nay, and 2 abstentions. So the minutes are approved. We'll now move to the 3 agenda items that we have, and we'll take them in order. The first one is starts on packet page 47, and I will read this into the record. This is for possible action, discussion on accepting the 2020 Planning Commission Activities Report, which encompasses a short summary and item-by-item description of the Planning Commission decisions in 2020. Sam, you've prepared these materials, so I will let you go ahead and make a brief presentation, and then we'll have questions or comments from members of the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on that position again this year, and congratulations, Maureen, on your vice chair position. Happy New Year! Good to see you all again. As the chairman just read, this is just a report recapping our activities for the Planning Commission in 2020. This is something we do at the end of each year. To be approved at the beginning of the year. The commissioners and the county manager request an activities report from each board and commission within the county. And so if you approve the report today, we'll forward this on to the county commissioners to review and approve as well. I would note just a few corrections within the report. In kind of the overview, the first section there, I noticed I mentioned that we didn't hold a meeting in February or August. And I would correct that to say we did hold a meeting in August. It wasn't our regular, or we didn't have any regular items on the agenda, but there was a joint meeting with the Planning Commission and the county commissioners. And so I've also added in the report itself to the August 11th meeting, just noted that it's a joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners. And that was a discussion on the 2020 master plan update. And so there was no action that was taken at that meeting. There was just a discussion held. So I added that to the column there. On the same page under the June 2020 meeting and the July 2020 meeting, there were 2 denials of applications that were there. And I hadn't listed the vote breakdown, I think, on either of those items. So I did go back and review the minutes in the video, and I added the membership votes for those items as I have for the other ones here. Other than that, this is just a recap, as I said, of our activities in 2020. I think looking at this, you can see we met just about every month except for February. I think while we only had 2 master plan amendments and 5 zoning map amendments, we saw maybe an increase in subdivision maps. And I think overall we had just maybe a less amount of applications that were heard over the year compared to 2019. But we had some larger projects. And as you know, the 2020 master plan update was the largest one that we worked on just about the entire year. And we're happy to get approved by the end of the year. So if there's any questions about the report, please let me know. Would also note at the end of the report, as I have in the past, I've attached the activities report for the administrative hearing panel. The administrative hearing panel hears parcel map applications. So any application to divide 4 lots or less go to an administrative hearing panel. And I've recapped their items there just for the Planning Commission and the county commissioners to review.
Very good. Thanks, Sam. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to members of the Planning Commission for questions or comments that they have on the activities report. Bryce, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Though technically accurate, I just want to state for the record that at the November 17th, 2020 special meeting, although I was in fact absent for the final vote because of an emergency where my family was being evacuated due to a fire in close proximity to our home, I was there for the majority of that meeting and had to leave just short of the vote. And so I just want that stated for the record that I was not absent for that meeting, just absent, unfortunately, at the time that the vote was taken.
Thank you, Bryce. Yes, that's a very important point to make. You participated very diligently at that meeting and was emergency and unforeseen that you were not able to cast your final vote, but you did record that on the record to the Planning Commission and to the Board of County Commissioners. So thank you. Other questions or comments on the activities report? Maureen?
Not enough pages here. It felt like we worked harder than this. But thank you, Sam and Tom and everyone for all the work on the master plan. I too am very glad that it's done.
Thank you, Maureen. Other questions for Sam or comments on the report? Sam, are you able to share your screen? The August 11th meeting that we had, the joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners. Can you share what you have for a modification of that?
That's a great point, Mr. Chairman, and I'll share my screen now, and then I can add this revised report to supplemental materials today. So let me do that now. I've highlighted the changes and additions I've made. So as I said here, under the August 11th, 2020 meeting, just added a description that was a joint meeting with the county commissioners, and a description of the item from that agenda. That discussion was held on that item. As I mentioned, the July meeting, I just added the vote breakdown of the members, as well as for the June meeting, that denial, the vote breakdown for the members. And I did revise this first sentence here that it was just February that we did meet in August.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam. But what we'll vote on for approval is simply the document starting on packet page 49 and going through packet page 58. So that's the item that's will be on the table for approval. Any other questions or comments for Sam on the activities report?
Mr. Chairman, this is Nick Meyer again. Question for Sam Booth. Sam, is there a definitive document that lists all of the residential, commercial, and industrial projects and development agreements that are on the books for the county, that includes their initiation date and any dates for extensions, includes the number of projects completed, buildings completed, and proposed units to be built?
Yeah, Nick, and this is Sam Booth, planning manager for the record. I don't know that there's one comprehensive document that covers some of those multiple aspects of different projects. The closest thing we do have to that is our subdivision and vested and approved subdivision tracking list. Tom and I and Colleen, our development coordinator, have worked hard to kind of revise that tracking list and keep it updated, and to add some more detail and information to that list. It was added to the 2020 master plan. And so the most recent, as of the time of the master plan being approved, copy of that was included, I believe, in the growth management element of the master plan. Of course, since then, we've updated it through the end of the year, and we keep that. So that table breaks down approved subdivisions, the number of units that were originally approved in that subdivision. And then as the table moves from left to right, it breaks down the number of units that have been built out, or lots recorded, units built out, and then lots remaining, or units remaining within that subdivision. And then there's 2 pages to that. The second page is for vested projects. So any projects approved prior to the growth management allocation system in 2007. And the breakdown the same way there, the number of units you're able to see that are left in each of those projects, when they were approved, maybe the name of approval. I'm trying to think if we have the owner's name. I think it's just the name of the development within that. As far as the development agreements themselves, we have development agreements are required by NRS to be reviewed every 24 months by the county commissioners. And so there's kind of a rotating schedule depending on the approval date and the timeline for review of development agreements. As we bring those forward, They're reviewed typically in June and in December of each year. And so depending on which I guess, schedule you fall into, there are a set of development agreements that get reviewed each June and December. I think on about a 2-year basis. But I don't know that there's a comprehensive list of those development agreements. The DA's office may have further information for that.
Can you send me a copy of that schedule that you describing the residential development with the units and the timelines?
Yes, definitely can do that.
Okay. And is that periodically reviewed by the Planning Commission on a monthly or a quarterly basis?
I don't think it's been, and this is Sam Booth again, planning manager, monthly or quarterly, but it has been at least annually, I would say. And I think in recent years, it's been more frequently than annually. I think we've, again, as I said, reviewed it as part of the master plan update last year. We also had an item that may be in the report here that we had just a discussion only item last year on development applications and development in the county. We had a few builders speak. Staff spoke about that, and I think we presented that list at that meeting last year. And then I would say the same thing in 2019. I know we discussed that list with the county commissioners at least once in 2019.
So will the report that you send me and the rest of the commissioners, will it include the new park development on it?
I don't know, Tom, if we have the park development on the list yet. One thing to point out, and this is kind of the tricky part or difficult part to our discussion on any project, is when exactly a development is approved. So just I guess by the simplicity of the fact that the title of that report that we keep, or that Excel sheet that we keep, has traditionally been called the subdivision tracking list. And it includes plan developments as well. But by the fact that the park development doesn't have an approved subdivision map yet, I don't think we've added it to the list. Additionally, they have to come forward and request zoning changes. And the zoning maps are not approved for that. The subdivision as well. We anticipate plan development approvals being required for each phase. So, of course, while we know in 2019 there was a development agreement that was approved and capped a number of units on the land, no actual approvals beyond that hadn't been given. And now we do have an approved specific plan, so it may be appropriate for us to review whether or not to add it to the list. But again, there's several steps that the landowner is going to need to take before those units are actually made it through the process for final approval by the Planning Commission and the board.
Yeah. You know, my goal is just to try and get total visibility about all projects in the county.
Sure.
You know, which ones have been approved, which ones are underway, which ones, like the park agreement, have had a development agreement established, but maybe that's just the first part of the step.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would help the Planning Commission to get their arms around the total visibility of what's going on. And now specifically about development agreements, where do the development agreements reside? Are they in the district attorney's office?
No, Nick, this is Tom Delaire. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the board.
Thank you, Tom.
Community Development Director. I apologize for being gone when you were appointed by the board. So this is the first time I've seen you. And but I wanted to add a little bit to what Sam has said, and then answer that question that you just asked about those development agreements. We have all the development agreements in Sam's office on that rotation. It is a 2-year rotation. I believe for each, every 2 years we review the development agreement, and there's 4 cycles. And I think 3 cycles are full, if I recall correctly. Sam, is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
And or see that, yeah, anyway, those development agreements are on our webpage. Colleen has added them to our webpage in the community development. I can provide a link. They are kind of buried under the documents tab, and everybody can read them online. And then also the development agreements are I guess produced through the district attorney's office, but community development is really where they reside. And so we're tracking those, and Sam's, of course, I said those binders are created for that purpose. In addition to the subdivision list, we do track building permit issuance, and that's one of the tracking mechanisms in the county CAFR through the finance department that's created, and we do track those monthly and report. I think the table ends up, the updated table ends up going to like Douglas County's Business Council, and some of the realtor offices have asked for those in the past. That tracks basically the value in that table, and I can get you copies of those. We track it both for the fiscal year and for the calendar year. So there's two different tables currently we're tracking. Acela is a program that we use in Northern Nevada. Washoe County uses it. We jumped on board with them for our permitting software, tracking all of this information that you were asking about, industrial land or industrial projects versus commercial projects versus residential projects. It is something that Acela really wasn't set up to do. And so we are working to try and improve that tracking mechanism. And I hope someday to have a dashboard of exactly what you're asking for that is available on the website and live, and hopefully associated with a map. It's going to take a little bit for us to get there. And I've been working on the master plan, pretty much since I started day one on March 11th, 2019. And once we finally got that plan done, we're now working a little bit on operations and trying to clean some reporting things up. But with Acela, it's a program. We need a programmer to actually make any modifications to the program, and so that's a little bit slow going, but we are working that direction.
Thank you, Tom. We're getting a little bit far afield of the activities report, but go ahead, Nick. Did you have other follow-up questions or comments?
No, I just want to thank Tom for the clarification on that. And Tom, if you could send me a link to those development agreements, I would appreciate that. And as well as your report for tracking building permits.
Okay.
Any other questions, Nick?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just follow up on a couple of quick things. I think the best way to do this, Sam Booth and Tom, no offense, Nicholas, but any materials that you want to distribute, let's put those on as supplemental materials so that all the members can have them and the public can have them. I think it's would be good for the public to be able to review anything. So let's just not send people information directly or links, and let's put those on public comments for supplemental materials, if we can do that. And then I would, Sam Booth, you did make a very good point, Nick. If you want to go back to the minutes of the May 12th discussion that the Planning Commission had, I think that would be very useful. That's described on packet page 50, but those minutes and all of the materials containing a number of things that you asked about, I think, are on the May 12th meeting that we had, and that was a very useful discussion. Also, development agreements, either for the good or the bad, are not really the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Those are voted on and approved by the Board of County Commissioners. I think your point is very good, Nicholas, that we should have that in the documentation, so that when we review all of the agreements and the projects, we know whether they're part of a development agreement or not. But that's something that Board of County Commissioners reviews, not the Planning Commission. So very good points, Nick, and we appreciate your bringing those to staff's attention. Other questions or comments on activities report that Sam has prepared? If there's no other questions or comments, then we would have a motion for accepting the Planning Commission activities report and forwarding it to the Board of County Commissioners. Would a member be willing to make the motion? Bryce?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to accept the Planning Commission 2020 activities report and forward it to the Board of Commissioners for their consideration.
Thank you, Bryce. Bryce has made the motion. Is there a second? Maureen seconds the motion. Sam Taylor, do we need to have a part of that motion that inserts as amended by Sam's changes to packet page 51, or are we good with the staff report there?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Sam Taylor on behalf of Douglas County DAs. I think it should be amended to include Sam's report or the changes that Sam had made and presented to the commission today.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Bryce, do you want to amend your motion to insert that we have changes on packet page 51 on the vote boxes and on the August 11th meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to amend my motion to accept the Planning Commission 2020 activities report with the changes made by Mr. Booth on page 51 and forward it to the Board of Commissioners for their consideration.
Thank you, Bryce. Maureen, is that acceptable to you, the amended?
It is acceptable, and I maintain my second.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there discussion on the motion that Bryce has made? Okay, seeing no discussion, then I will call the roll. Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. Nick?
Again, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to abstain.
Thank you. Christie?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So on this votes, there's 6 votes aye, no votes nay, 1 abstention. So the motion is agreed to. We'll now move forward to agenda item 2, and I will read this into the record. This is for possible action, discussion on the 2020 Douglas County Master Plan, including amendments to the master plan text as adopted by the Board of County Commissioners, and directing a report pursuant to Nevada Revised Statutes 278.220, if necessary, be forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners. Sam, do you want to give a brief explanation of what this report entails?
Yes, thank you once again, Mr. Chairman. This is Sam Booth, Planning Manager for the record. This item is being brought before the Planning Commission today in accordance with NRS 278-220, Section 4. That says that when the Board of County Commissioners approves the master plan amendment, which differs from the Planning Commission approved version, that any changes made by the Board of County Commissioners be reverted back to the Planning Commission just for review. And then the Planning Commission has the opportunity to make comments. I think the way NRS actually says it is to make a report that can be forwarded back to the Board of County Commissioners. In 2019 and then early 2020, when we did this same sort of back and forth with the master plan map update process, if you remember, the report back to the county commissioners was just the minutes that were made of the meeting from the comments that the planning commissioners made. So in your staff report or in your packet on page 60 is a staff report just outlining the changes that were made by the county commissioners. There were some minor acreage corrections that staff brought to the attention of the commissioners and they approved. A few tables or images that were replaced. And then there were a few policies, and I outlined which elements that there were a policy added to economic development, growth management and housing, public facilities, and a few action items added to the implementation element as well. So if you have any questions on any of those items, please let me know. And I think this the way the action item for this one is written is if you have any comments on any of those changes that you would like forwarded to the county commissioners, feel free, please state those and we'll forward them to the commissioners.
Thank you very much, Sam. We'll turn it over to members of the Planning Commission for questions that they might have of Sam or comments on the materials. Maureen?
I have a question. After we send this on to the Board of Commissioners and they approve it, then the master plan goes to print?
That's a great question and point, and thank you, Maureen. I meant to touch on that in my comments. This is Sam Booth again. So the master plan officially was approved when it was voted and approved by the county commissioners. These changes will officially be approved, I believe, once they receive the report from the Planning Commission. The state of the master plan itself right now is, as you can see in the report, if you have the electronic version, you're able to follow the link to our community development website, where we have the draft version posted today, and then also in supplemental materials to the approving meeting by the county commissioners, you can see those red line changes that they made. Currently, Tom and I have forwarded the draft to a professional editor who is reviewing the master plan draft right now. That group has had it for about a week, and they told us it might take 2 weeks or more to review. So we're hoping to get it back within a week, maybe a little bit longer. And as soon as we have that draft back from the editor, we'll just make sure that there's not any significant changes that were made there, and accept those changes and post the final version. I think what Tom and I have discussed is printing a copy, of course, for each of the planning commissioners and each of the county commissioners, and we'll let you know just as soon as that's available and get you a copy.
Will it be possible for members of the public to purchase a hard copy?
I think so. We've also talked about how we do that. So, of course, any member of the public can request a copy of any document, through a public information request or other, if it's a supplemental material or material for a packet, and we produce that for them. We may, as we print this copy of the master plan, Tom and I have talked about whether or not we send it to an outside print shop, maybe to make a little bit of a nicer bound version for the commissioners. And we can make that option available to the public as well, if they would like to pick one up from the print shop at the cost that they would provide. But I think we haven't determined that exactly yet.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Nick Meyer. I have a question for Sam.
Okay, Nick, go ahead. Thank you.
Sam, previously you said that the Board of County Commissioners approved the master plan in their last meeting. So the master plan is approved by the Board of County Commissioners. So I'm a little confused about what this review of their changes are by the Planning Commission. Is this simply for us to review the changes that they made so that we know what they made? Or is there something else that's expected of the Planning Commission?
Sam?
Yes, thank you, Nick. This is Sam.
Go ahead, Sam. If you want to interject, Sam Taylor, you might have comments on the thought process behind the Nevada revised statutes, but go ahead, Sam. Sam Booth.
Yeah, and I can refer to the DA's office as well. But yes, this is just a report. Basically, the Planning Commission by NRS is deemed the keepers of the master plan. So in the county commissioners, when they reviewed and made changes to that, NRS requires them to send notice back to the Planning Commission to tell you what changes were made to the document.
Okay.
And Sam, elaborate, please, if you have anything else.
Yes, Sam Taylor on behalf of Douglas County DA's office. Ostensibly, the purpose of the sending the changes back to the Planning Commission are so that the Planning Commission can register any objection to the changes if they so desire, and put those objections on the record and have them lodged with the Board of County Commissioners. What the Board of County Commissioners chooses to do with those objections of course, would be within their purview. But and if you have objections to what changes they made, now is the time to register them. If you're comfortable with the changes and find them to be acceptable, you can say that as well and say that they're okay. That's been traditionally what has happened in the past. I don't think the board's made massive changes that gave the Planning Commission any heartburn in the past, but that's not to say that you might not have heartburn about some of the changes they made in this particular case.
Thank you for the clarification, Sam.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Other members of the Planning Commission have questions or comments? Brian, go ahead.
So it's just our questions and comments regarding the changes, correct? I'm just making sure I stay on topic. So, as far as, adding all this art stuff, I do know, and I do remember we had quite a bit of complaint here. Kind of happy to see that they've come up with some sort of way to do this. My only complaint is, what's the need for the arts? Have we studied how much that's really a need here? I mean, we have one person asking it. Doesn't tell us how many people he represents. I mean, how much of the public he represents. I haven't heard anybody else ask for it. So we're putting a 1 to 3 year priority on developing a theater venue, and shoot, we don't even know if anybody's going to attend. So maybe the feasibility will be what determines if that's something we need to do or not. And so I like that there's a feasibility, but I'm also seeing the priority of having this done as maybe something that, privately should be done, not through our government. I mean, I've been in plenty of places that have theaters, and I got to say they are attended. And, when they are built, they do have a lot of people, but most of them are privately funded, not governmental funded. So I like adding arts and bringing culture, but I don't know that we need to be building buildings for something that I don't think, I don't see a lot of need for here. So that's my only comments over what they've changed.
Thank you, Brian. Any other members of the Planning Commission wish to make comments or ask questions? I do have a brief statement that I would like to read. Pursuant to NRS 278.2204, these are my comments on the actions taken by the Board of County Commissioners on December 9th, 2020 on the Douglas County 2020 Master Plan. I appreciate the work done by the board and approve the changes they made. I want to extend my thanks and appreciation to every member of the board for their hard work and the attention they paid to the importance of the master plan. In particular, I appreciate their willingness to hold 2 joint meetings with the Planning Commission at which we started the collaborative process, which resulted in a unanimous vote of the Planning Commission and a nearly unanimous vote of the Board of County Commissioners. I hope that the new board supports the master plan we have developed over the past year. The Planning Commission is the keeper of the master plan, and I look forward to working with everyone to adhere to the goals and policies and to take action on the implementation items. I again extend my thanks and gratitude for the work of every member of the Planning Commission and of the staff for their hard work in 2020. And I thank members of the public for their input and support. Sam Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to note one thing. I know it's not official or for the record, but I think it's a testament to the Planning Commission's work that so few changes were made by the Board of County Commissioners. So I just like to point that out.
Yes, thank you, Sam Taylor. That's a good observation. Other members of the Planning Commission have statements or comments on the master plan report that we will issue back to the Board of County Commissioners? Okay, I believe in the past practice has been that they include all of the comments actually as we gave them, so they'll just take our minutes and provide that as the report to the Board of County Commissioners. So if there's no other discussion, then I would entertain the motion that's on packet page 59 for the report on behalf of the Planning Commission.
Okay.
Maureen.
I'll do it. I move to direct the Community Development Department to provide a report on behalf of the Planning Commission consisting of the planning commissioner's oral and / or written comments regarding the 2020 Douglas Master Plan, including amendments to the master plan text adopted by the Board of County Commissioners in accordance with NRS 278.220, parens 4.
Thank you, Maureen. Is there a second to the motion?
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Brian, I think I heard Bryce first. So Bryce seconds Maureen's motion to provide the report on behalf of the Planning Commission. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, then I'll call the roll. Nick?
I'm going to abstain. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Christy?
Aye.
Bryce?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So on this motion, there are 6 votes aye, no votes nay, 1 abstention, and the motion is approved. We'll now move to the third item on our agenda, and I will read this into the record. For discussion only, discussion on possible modifications to the bylaws for the Planning Commission. I asked that this item be placed on the agenda. I probably wasn't very clear that I did not intend to recommend modifications to the bylaws. If there are, during our discussion, areas where people would like to propose modifications, they would have to come as a separate agenda item at a future meeting. So this is for discussion only. I did have probably 4 or 5 areas that I would like to read portions of the bylaws and open them up for discussion or consideration. And I will also yield to other members who have sections of the bylaws that they would like to discuss either with the membership at large or bring to the public's attention or ask questions of Sam Taylor. So I think the bylaws are very well written. We did amend them once last year, as Ellie Waller made a reference in public comment. That was a simple change to try and bring the chair and the vice chair elections to the start of the year rather than have them interrupt our year in the middle of the year. But the ones that I wanted to start by addressing is initially the section on agenda, which would be on packet page 65, 3.7, which is how our agenda gets prepared and what our agenda consists of. And as members of the Planning Commission, I think know, much of our agenda is driven by applications, and those are contained in statute or in code as to how we have to consider those. We have certain deadlines, we have certain requirements, but the one portion of that part of the bylaws that I wanted to call to members' attention is on the following page, packet page 66. It's 3.7.1, and I will read this. Any individual Planning Commission member may request relevant topics be placed on the agenda, provided that the request is timely. At the chair's discretion, the topic may be postponed, but no later than the next regular meeting of the Planning Commission. So I just want to emphasize to members of the Planning Commission that this is your Planning Commission. We don't have to just deal with the items that come before us as a part of the regular order, that you're entitled to place topics on our agenda. You may have to do a little bit of the legwork. We're in some cases short-staffed. So if you have relevant topics that are within our jurisdiction, I would encourage any of you to explore them and bring them forward so that we can have a full and complete discussion of issues that may be of concern to individuals on the Planning Commission. So that was the first one that I wanted to call to people's attention, and I would be happy to yield to anyone who has questions or comments on that part of the bylaws. Okay, seeing none, I'll move over to the next item that I wanted to call everyone's attention to. This would be on packet page 67. This is a communication outside of the public hearing or meetings. And I will just read these two sections because I think they're important for everybody to always be aware of. Planning commissioners shall be discreet in the discussion of pending matters outside of the meeting forum. No commitments or prejudicial comments shall be made prior to a public hearing in advance of any official action. 4.2.1, commissioners should avoid ex parte communications with parties who have an interest in the pending matter or anticipated to be brought before the planning commission. Parties should be encouraged to discuss their comments with staff or at the public hearing rather than privately with individual planning commission members. Unsolicited correspondence and emails should be preserved so that they may be put in the record. Commissioners must disclose all ex parte communications. And 4.2.2, if during such ex parte contacts, a member of the planning commission obtains information that she might consider as important when deciding an adjudicative matter, the commissioner must assure that the information is already public knowledge, has been included in the reports or presentations, or disclosed or otherwise brought out at the public meeting so that interested parties may have an opportunity to comment on it. I think this is pretty straightforward, but the way I construe it is just really as much business as we try to conduct, we should try and conduct in public and with full disclosure and full inclusion of all members of the Planning Commission and the public. We do get emails frequently. I think it's a sensitive matter as far as addressing those emails, responding to those emails, or acknowledging those emails. They come to us individually. I've tried to encourage all people who have comments to send them to the planning email so that they're a part of the public record. And that way there's no confusion or there's no miscommunication on how matters are communicated. But this was something that I thought was important. I think members have handled this well in the past, but I think it's always important to remember this portion of our bylaws. Questions or comments, Sam Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would also note that the term parties in section 4.2.1 includes also the owners as well as the representatives or authorized representatives of those parties before the Planning Commission. And ostensibly, one could argue that, potentially if a matter is required to come in front of the Planning Commission, once a matter is potentially filed with community development in the first place, that it might apply, that the ex parte communication prohibition might apply. That's subject to interpretation, of course, but I'm thinking that that's something you may want to consider.
Thank you. Very good point, Sam. Maureen.
I agree wholeheartedly, and thank you for emphasizing this. I look at this ex parte communication with parties who have an interest in pending matters to be lobbying. And I think that we should consider at our next meeting when we review the bylaws to adding something about either discouraging or even outright prohibiting lobbying of the planning commissioners, because we are not policymakers. I view us as a somewhat judiciary body in that we all have to get the same information at the same time. We saw confusion come up when we had the slaughterhouse on Centerville. Some people went out and were lobbied by the opponent, and then some of us were lobbied by the proponent, and it got very confusing. There was a lot of miscommunication that ended up before the Attorney General's office and in court. So I think I would ask that the Planning Commission consider putting something in our bylaws to deal with lobbying by outside parties, and that we should be very aware that if it's a public hearing, we don't talk to anybody. We all hear it at the same time, at the same place. It follows right on with the on-site inspections in 4.3. It says that if someone goes out to do an on-site inspection, it's strongly recommended 2 or 3 planning commissioners. And that's so there's more than one set of ears listening to what's being said. I think there's too great a chance that we have problems and we need to address that. Maybe it's something the DA can do, or we have to come up to the language. That's fine, but it has to be addressed.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Other comments from members of the Planning Commission? Questions? Okay, I'll move forward with the next couple. Sam, did you have something else, or?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Sam Taylor on behalf of Douglas County DAs. I was wondering whether or not you as chair would take Maureen's request to amend section 4.2.1 or maybe add a new section there as a request to add something to the agenda. Is that your intention, Commissioner Casey?
Yes, we were told this is for discussion only. And if we want to make changes to this, it has to be scheduled at another meeting.
Yes, if Maureen wants to make that request, I think that's a properly noticed piece of information that we can consider at a future meeting.
Consider it made.
Thank you, Maureen. The next item that I wanted to just briefly address is packet page 70. And this is on the section on motions. This is 6.3, discussion, closure, and question. This is something that I've called Planning Commission members to their attention in the past, and I know it's been mentioned at the Board of County Commissioners meetings in order to provide a full and complete record. The Board of County Commissioners desires to have our views on the issues, but the important part of that that I'd like to read is individual members are encouraged to discuss their views of the evidence and why they are going to vote for or against the motion. If findings of fact are required for approval of an item, members are encouraged to individually discuss proposed findings, but at a minimum, discuss those findings that she cannot agree with. I think it's pretty plain what that means. You don't have to go into long discussions, but we do try and be as organized and as comprehensive as we can be to provide a good record for the Board of County Commissioners when we oppose projects or based on the findings. Any questions that individuals have on that or comments? Maureen?
A question and a comment. Question is, I know we do these findings of fact for the minutes. Since Amy was put into a different position, do we have someone who is going to be doing our minutes on hand so that the board can have them for their next meeting? Or is that something that's in the works?
We have an individual who transcribes the minutes. I don't think the final personnel has been put in place to have this on an ongoing basis. But at every meeting, we will have that documentation available. Yes.
Okay. And my comment is, I don't know about the other planning commissioners, but sometimes the findings that we have to, if we agree or disagree, I feel pigeonholed, and it's difficult to say, well, I disagree with finding number 5 or number 1 because it doesn't meet this. It's so confining that I appreciate that we have room in this bylaw to extrapolate and somehow come around to the finding of fact, because just to say I disapprove because it doesn't meet finding number whatever, it's, for my brain, it's a bit difficult.
Thank you, Maureen. Yes, we all feel constrained sometimes when we're pigeonholed into choice A or B or C or D. So those are very good observations. Anything else on this particular portion of the bylaws? Sam Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Again, Sam Taylor on behalf of Douglas County DAs. One thing I would point out with respect to findings is extremely important for the purposes of court cases, which may arise out of your decision-making process to have findings on the record stated clearly as to why you either approved or denied a particular item. And, courts look to those to determine whether or not the findings are reasonable so that, the decision of the Planning Commission can be upheld. So if you want your decision to be upheld by a court of law, you need to make an adequate record so the court can use it as a basis to determine the reasonableness of your actions. So I would encourage members to follow this particular rule as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam Taylor. Anybody else for comments on this one? I only have one more to move on to, and then I'll open it for other members of the Planning Commission that might want to address portions of the bylaws. Okay. The last one is on packet page 71. This is under the decision-making section, and this is absentees. I'll just read this. A Planning Commission member who is absent from any portion of a hearing conducted by the Planning Commission may vote on the matter at the time it is acted upon, provided the member has listened to a recording of the entire portion of the hearing from which she was absent, has examined all of the exhibits presented, and states for the record that the member deems herself to be as familiar with the record and with the evidence presented at the hearing as she would have been had they personally attended the entire hearing. So I think when we're in the Zoom world, this is sometimes a little bit of a difficult subject. If you lose the Zoom call, we try and always pause the meeting so that everybody can be involved in the discussions. But I think this is something that we don't have proxy voting. We don't have absentee voting or other things that other bodies might have. So it's just a pretty clear point that we do want people to be involved in the entire process and not to just jump in at the last minute or without hearing all of the evidence. So I hope members are attentive to that during the meetings that we have. I did skip one item too that I want to go back and address, which is on this point as well. This is on packet page 68, item 4.7, attendance and preparation.
Yes.
Each member of the Planning Commission who will be unable to attend a meeting of the Planning Commission must notify the Planning Manager of Community Development and Chair not later than 5 p.m. on the day prior to the date of the meeting or at the earliest opportunity of her unavailability. We have had good attendance in the past year, and I don't see this as a problem area, but I did want to call that to members' attention. If you are necessarily absent, we have to make the accommodations for making sure we have a quorum and voting on things that might require a supermajority vote. So I would just encourage members to plan ahead and make the chair and make the planning manager knowledgeable about any absences that may occur. So those were the ones on the bylaws that I wanted to call people's attention to. I'll be happy to open it up now for other members that have places that they'd like to ask questions or raise issues. Maureen,
I have one.
like to go ahead.
On packet page 67, item 4.1.4, I would like to ask Sam Taylor to give us an overview of what conflict of interest with regards to public perception of conflict of interest is, and clarify that for everyone, because we all know what a hard financial conflict is, but not everyone completely understands how important and how critical the public perception is. And Sam Taylor, could you clarify that, please?
Certainly. I think for the context of this particular rule, Sam Taylor again for the record, Douglas County DAs. For the purposes of this particular rule, the perception of the public is the reasonable, ordinary person as a member of the public viewing the item and whether the appearance of propriety exists for that person. In other words, if that person, that reasonable person who, courts would define as kind of like the average Joe or Jane or whoever, that person would view what the commissioner is doing and find that to be a conflict of interest. So the perception on the part of that individual is what's relevant in terms of the court making a determination whether or not there's an apparent conflict of interest. I think everybody does know what an actual conflict of interest is, but the apparent conflict of interest is sort of like what is reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Well, for example, when many years ago, I won't say how many, on my block after I was elected to office, one of the neighbors brought down a cake to welcome me to the neighborhood. This was 3 years after I had moved in. And he also had an item on our agenda for a lot split. I took the cake back, called the city attorney, and he said, Maureen, it's just a cake. But for me, it was a conflict because he was trying to buy my favor with a cake. And there was no financial interest or anything. I didn't even know him. But I felt this way, and I feel real strongly about this too. The public is viewing us, and it may not seem like a big deal to us as individuals at the time, but we have to keep in mind, as you said, Sam, how the public perceives it as individuals. They may not see it as a little thing. They may see it a lot bigger. That's just something we need to be aware of whenever we're talking offhand, like I'm talking offhand, or making a vote. And I don't know if it can be stressed enough that public perception is crucial.
Yes, and if I may, to follow up on that, it doesn't necessarily have to, the act that the public is perceiving doesn't necessarily have to be illegal. Like, for example, the attorney from where you're talking about there, Commissioner Casey, was probably telling you that it's perfectly lawful to accept the cake because it's a token sort of gesture on the part of that individual. But what you're referring to is the perception of the public on the part of you accepting that cake and what that means towards your decision-making process at a particular meeting relative to that person's application. So, is a person attempting to influence you? Probably sounds like that way from the facts that you presented. Like. Yeah, but there's also the issue of whether or not a cake in and of itself being presented to you is sufficient to influence you on an important decision about whether or not their lot should be split. So the reasonableness factor is kind of like a balancing test of what are they giving you, how are they trying to influence you versus the matter being decided. And it's every case is different and every case is fact specific. So you just have to think about what would the public think of this while I'm doing this? And that's maybe the way to think about it.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, is we have to keep it in mind all the time that we are being watched. Whether it's at a meeting or out in public, we are being watched.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Sam Taylor. Maureen, did you have other issues that you wanted to follow up on there?
No, actually, the only thing that is, it's sort of kind of on 2.1 under election of officers. It talks about the terms of chair and vice chair. Under the NRS, it says that the chair and vice chair shall serve a term of 1 year and be eligible for re-election. We were both re-elected by our peers, but historically, at least for the last 10, 12 years, the Planning Commission has voted the same chair in for 2-year terms. And I don't want it to become a habit so that the Planning Commission feels it's obligatory to have the chair or the vice chair sit for 2 years when there are 7 of us. And I think the intent with the NRS was to give everybody the opportunity to serve in a position. If they want to, great. they should have that opportunity. If they don't, that's okay too. But I don't think it should be an automatic. And I have no issue, Kirk, with you sitting as chair. Thank you very much. But I just wanted to bring that out there, that it's something we need to consider so that everybody knows they have the opportunity and they should get that opportunity without having to lobby the other planning commissioners.
Very good point, Maureen. Nothing is ironclad, and everybody should be offered the opportunity to put whoever's name forward they want at any time period. It's a democratic system, and we don't want to have any things that are assumed or automatic. So I appreciate your raising that, and I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate your support. Other comments or questions on the bylaws? If not, I will close this agenda item. Since we're at the end of our items, I will move to closing public comment. At this time, public comment will be taken on those items that are within the jurisdiction and control of the Planning Commission. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person who has left a voice message on Douglas County's public comment phone line, 775-783-6088. The voice messages will be played to the public and Planning Commission in the order they were recorded. No more than one voice message, public comment per person will be played to the Planning Commission and public. So I have now, the time is 2:21. And Colleen, do you have any public comment, closing public comment at this point?
Thank you, Colleen Zepeda, for the record. Yes, so far I have one. It came in at 1:58.
Okay, go right ahead.
Ellie Waller, Waller, as the Board of County Commissioners has stated they are exploring better options for public input after each agenda item. I sincerely hope the Planning Commission follows suit as soon as that process is launched. Welcome, Commissioner Meyer. The document Sam Booth referred to in the master plan is stated as page 188 at the bottom, and when you search the master plan, it's page 211 in the online master plan document. This doesn't show the entire project proposed list, what is approved, so no real clear picture of what is out there. Example, Big George, North Douglas County specific plan, which is up to 1,300 units. Master plan chart shows only 179 for Big George and 119 for Riverwood. We know there are approximately 7,500 to 8,000 units yet to be built. Doesn't this tell you that we need to have that chart also updated to show what's actually out there to be built? Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Colleen. I would be happy to take my time as public comment to respond to a portion of what Ellie Waller said. I did listen to the discussion that the Board of County Commissioners had at their meeting earlier this month. I thought it was a very good discussion. I agree with many of the points that the members of the Board of County Commissioners made. We obviously do need to take safety into consideration as far as resuming public meetings, but I know that the county manager during that discussion said that the staff was exploring other alternatives for additional public comment if we are continuing our virtual meetings. So I think I will be exploring that with the county manager's office. I think if the Board of County Commissioners discussion was towards that, I think I would tend to agree that if the county manager can find some suitable methods of allowing public comment to be made during our meetings on each actionable item, that's something that I think would improve the meetings. We want to have public discussion wherever, whenever, however we can. And yeah, I know it can be frustrating to members of the public if we've gone on and discussed an issue for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and we've raised a lot of different points. If they're not allowed to weigh in, that can be frustrating. And not having in-person meetings and having that being able to have that immediate response and counter response, I think it can be lacking in public participation. So I promise that I will be going to the county manager's office and trying to work with the staff to come up with methods that allow for better public participation as we move forward into 2020. So that would be my public comment. And that's coming from just one member of the Planning Commission. Certainly other members of the Planning Commission are free to express their opinions at any point on how we can move forward in the best possible fashion. Other public comment that has come in, Colleen?
Yes, it looks like we have one more.
Okay, Brian, did you want to go first, or you want to let the public comment go before you?
Mine was kind of just a question of Sam and Tom, in the final moments here. I believe you guys probably have talked to the new commissioners more than we have. Do we have any sense of direction from them regarding developments or anything, any sort of inkling of what they would like to see from us this year? I mean, I know we're about to send them the activity report. I'm sure that's going to spark some debate, but have you guys been given anything, thrown at you first?
Yeah, Brian, thank you. This is Tom Delaire for the record. Not yet. I have met with the county manager's office already about goals for this year, and we're looking at the growth ordinance, probably TDRs. There is a laundry list of projects in the implementation plan or implementation section of the master plan, and a whole lot of items that need to be addressed in 1 to 3 years, which really is not feasible with our budget, that we have for the first 6 months of the year, and then also, staff constraints that we are running up against as well. But we are working on a plan right now to address code. That is something that we want to take on next, and then and they specifically put the growth management ordinance out first. The Board of County Commissioners will be setting those and discussing those, my understanding, in the near future. Right now, they've just done introductory comments and visions on January 4th. If you want to go back and look at that video, or if you haven't seen it already, so I think as they fill out what their role as commissioners are and given direction to the county manager's office, we'll get directed, pretty soon as well. So, but also, while I've got the mic, Chairman Walder, I did mention some things today. I just want to clarify that on the development agreements, I don't have those online right now. We don't have them online. They are recorded in the recorder's office, but we haven't posted those online. What we have online are all the specific plans in the various versions. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record as well.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you, Brian. Colleen, why don't you go ahead and play the other public comment, and then we'll see if there's anything else out there.
Okay.
Jim Slade. In the discussion earlier today on when the residential units and approved development should be entered into the county's calculus of the number of units approved, so that it can be taken into account for county planning, including water availability, adequate infrastructure, and eventual build out. Both seem vague on how, when, and why development should be added to the count. In my opinion, it should be sooner rather than later. Take the development on Park Ranch east of the towns. Perhaps it should not have been added when the development was approved in 2019 for up to 2,500 units. Not including it, however, created consternation and confusion between staff, public officials, and the general public, with some people feeling they were being misled, with differing numbers being batted around when it came to the number of approved units. When a specific plan was approved last month for 2,218 units, there's no longer any reason to delay including all of them as approved units. For reference, look at Virginia Ranch, which is 1,020 approved units that is always listed in approved projects, and every home counted. Yet no homes have been built there since its 2004 approval, and it's unclear to me if their project has expired or not. Perhaps we'll find out soon, since Virginia Ranch was recently sold to a developer. All of this is essential to staff, the Planning Commission, the board, and the public in order to plan adequately for future needs. With just the 2,218 units from Buckeye Farm and the 1,020 from nearby Virginia Ranch, that would be 3,238 new homes without even considering other approved developments. Those two would likely add another 7,500 or so people, 15,000 cars, much more traffic on 395 and other roads, and an additional 2,000 or so children, all of whom would be expected at this point to go to Minden or Gardnerville Elementary Schools and Carson Valley Middle School. Those schools are clearly incapable of absorbing all those new students. So at a minimum, one new school would have to be built. Who will pay for that? The county residents as a whole? Our citizens have made it abundantly clear over the years, including in the formation of our master plan, that development should pay for itself and not be a burden on existing taxpayers. I'm sure you all have some idea of the enormous cost of a new school in this day and age. The $1,600 per new home that goes for schools is completely inadequate to cover the cost of a new school. Large developments, especially those of 1,000 or more units, should be required to pay additional funding for schools. Those larger than 2,000 units, like Buckeye Farm, should be required to build a new school. Existing taxpayers should not be left on the hook for ongoing growth that they do not support and should not be asked to support financially.
Okay, that's the last one we have.
Thank you, Colleen. It's now 2:31. We began closing public comment, I believe, at 2:21. So unless other members, Maureen, did you have comments you wanted to make?
Yes, there seems to be so much confusion, and I know I had it over the park specific plan about phasing and units being built and how we build a table and on and on. I would like to put forward for consideration perhaps a joint session with the Board of Commissioners to go over the table and specifically from staff, the timetable when things get added, because we have the growth management ordinance. And it's my understanding that things do not get added to the table until the final development has been approved and it's going to be constructed, not if it's just, it's not the tentative map, not if it's just conceptual, like the park is right now. And I need clarification on specific plans versus development plans. And I think the Board of Commissioners does as well, and the general public. So perhaps next quarter, April, if staff can squeeze something in where we, even if it's just a supplement that explains those types of things that the public can have access to, we can have access to, and it will just give the final clarification of at what point does something become countable.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Nick, did you have public comment that you wanted to make?
Well, I just want to agree with Maureen that I think we need more clarity in terms of the process about when units are added to our lists. But rather than discuss that with the Board of County Commissioners at this point, what I would like to propose is that we have an agenda item for our next meeting where Tom Dallaire and Sam Booth would present the current documentation that they have and explain how things look to them. And then perhaps as a planning commission, we can come up with some suggestions about how to segment these, from development agreement to specific plan to building permit, the process.
Thank you, Nick. Very good comments. Other members of the Planning Commission have individual closing public comments before we adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to know, what is the process for actually proposing an agenda item for our next meeting?
Just as clarification, Nick, I think that's in the bylaws. And if you wanted to review those and make a formal request to the chair and to the director of community development, that's the best way to place items on the agenda, as the bylaws state.
And is it done in this meeting or is it done by email?
It would need to be done, in my opinion, in writing.
Okay. And directed to Tom Delaire,
And the
Sam
chair.
Booth, and yourself.
Yes, I think that's my view of how the bylaws can be interpreted.
Okay. Do the rest of the commissioners need to be copied on that?
No, the individual chair and director of community development or planning would be the appropriate parties to notice.
Okay. Thank you.
Sam Taylor, did you have a clarification on what I elaborated on, or Nick's question?
Yeah, never mind.
Okay. If there's no further comments, and Colleen, if we don't have anybody else who's called in the intervening time?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then as of 2:36, closing public comment is closed. And since we've completed our agenda, I will declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Kirk. Thanks, everyone. Nice meeting, everyone.
Nice to meet you.